Welcome back to Mets Daily, your newest home for daily Mets YouTube content. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio, on all social media platforms. Give me a follow. Make sure you subscribe to this page, Mets Daily, youtube.com/@MetsDaily. Smash that thumbs up. Each one of those thumbs up helps the channel. We appreciate that. Comment below to be featured in our mailbag. We are doing the first mailbag today from yesterday's top comments on the video, so that's coming up. So appreciate you being part of the mailbag. So comment below your thoughts on the Mets and Ryanstanik being added into the fold. The Mets signed Ryanstanik to a 1-year, $4.5 million deal, a chance for an extra $500,000 in incentives. So this could be a $5 million deal. Stanek made $4 million last year. And I think universally, Mets fans are all hyped up by this. And it shows you how important, especially a bulldog pitcher like him, their success down the stretch and in the playoffs is. Stanek was very reliable for the Mets in the playoffs. I know he gave up a couple runs, but for the most part, he was a guy that you wanted to go to in the playoffs over someone like Phil Maton. And it's funny, you look at the stats and how Maton had a better tenure with the Mets in the regular season than Stanek, whose ERA was over 6. But Maton was terrible down the stretch, and Mets fans couldn't wait to get rid of him. Stanek comes back, and it's universally loved, and there's a reason for that. I think Stanek has, long-standing playoff success in this league. He's a couple years removed from being the best pitcher and the best reliever in baseball for the Houston Astros, and he is that dude. He's got the hair, he's got everything flowing, and I think you look at his overall stats last year, they were bad, but let's look at his last 12 outings. 12 and a third innings, 2.92 ERA, 18 strikeouts. Then that playoff ERA, 2.89, 34 he'll be in July. I had to mention elite hair, something I don't have. Maybe at one point in my life I did, but Ryanstanik has the elite hair. And I'd like to start some kind of movement of playing Wild Thing when he comes out. You have Timmy Trumpet for Edwin Diaz. You got Narco. You got the trumpets playing. Stanek deserves some kind of song. He deserves some kind of moment when he runs out to the mound. I also think that'll add to his energy. He's a high-energy guy. You see in the picture, he gets fired up, and he got fired up in the playoffs, and rightfully so. And that's the kind of guy the Mets need. He is the pitching version, essentially, of Jesse Winker. Like the long hair flowing, gets fired up in big moments, kind of a jerk that other teams don't like, but your team, you love having him as a teammate. And I think that's awesome. There were reports the other day he might go to the Cubs or elsewhere, but now he comes back to the Mets. And this just feels like the right romance. You only got him for a couple of months. He got traded from the Mariners right before the trade deadline. And his ERA was inflated by 2 bad outings. He had one outing, gave up 4 runs, another gave up 3. But I think the key was in September and October, you can rely on him. And I think he dealt with a back injury. I believe it was a back injury last year. So 100% healthy Stanek and a full season will be huge for the Mets bullpen. And $4.5 million is not a ton. You paid AJ Minter 11. I don't think this is a ton of money to give Ryanstanik, who now joins a bullpen, which to me is a huge strength for the Mets this season. You look at the 2024 opening day Mets bullpen versus the 2025 opening day Mets bullpen, and it's night and day. It's a massive difference between these pens, and Stanek now joins a pen that, you look on the screen here, it's Edwin Diaz as the highest leverage guy, the closer. And I believe Edwin Diaz is due for a bounce back. He was coming off the surgery, middle of the season, the sticky stuff situation, the suspension. I think Diaz is due for a prime season. He needs to trust his cheese. And I just think it took him a while to adjust last year, coming off the surgery and missing an entire season. AJ Minter, who they got, who won Mets fans over on Amazing Day by saying the Mets fans are the true fans in New York. That's all he needed to say. He's already become a fan favorite. So AJ Minter has been a career elite 7th, 8th inning guy, and not just against lefties. Stanek now in the fold. Jose Budo was a revelation for this Mets team last year as a multi-inning guy. I think down the stretch he kind of got gassed. He hadn't pitched that much. I think Budo, they'll be smart with how they use him, but he was really a massive part of that Met bullpen. Reed Garrett, another big piece of the Mets bullpen, who I think at times struggled but really found comfortability down the stretch. Carlos Mendoza, using these guys in different roles. If he struggled, he put him in a different role. If he succeeded there, he kept him there. Mendoza was good about putting these guys in different. I mean, there were times Reed Garrett was closing. So I think that shows you that, like, he was able to put faith in guys, and that gave them confidence. Past Mets managers weren't always great in instilling confidence in their players, and I thought Mendoza did a good job of that. The right side of the screen, kind of the other guys, and not all of them will make it. Danny Young was another revelation as a lefty last year. Griffin Canning is probably the long man. Maybe he's not on the major league roster to open the season. He's, again, like a 6th, 7th starter, a long man if you need someone, in the 3rd inning if the starter implodes. Daniel Nunez, another guy who got hurt, but really, again, I hate to keep using the word revelation, was huge for this team. Huascar Brazaban actually had good numbers. I don't think a lot of Mets fans loved him, but I thought that was a smart trade to get him, and I think he could be an intriguing piece because he came to the Mets and was, a dominant reliever, and then he fell off a little bit. Sean Reed Foley was the Mets' best reliever before getting hurt. The issue is he always gets hurt. But Sean Reed Foley had a 1.6 ERA. He was that amazing day on Saturday. I saw him and his mustachio. And he is really good and has good stuff. And he has that interesting, way he pitches where it looks like he's sitting on a toilet. And I think Sean Reed Foley could be, a decent part of this team. So you look at that bullpen right there, and those are the projected guys. And then I want to show you this because that right there is 10 relievers. Not all of them are great, but there's a lot of good options there. This is another 10. Like, the Mets essentially have 20 relievers, and you're not going to need 20, but if anyone were to get hurt, I'm not saying you're replacing them with Billy Wagner and, baseball legends, but the fact that you even have a list here of 11 through 20 is so far different than Mets regimes past where you were going to really, I hate to say bums. Like, you had some guys you never heard of who would get rocked. Remember that time where the Mets had a single-A pitcher? I'm forgetting the name. Drop it in the comments if you remember. And he pitched against the Blue Jays, and they called him up from, like, single-A to the majors, and he got rocked. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck are we doing here? Now this is the 11 through 20. Paul Blackburn, probably not a reliever, but, he will be a depth starter. Same with Tyler McGill, who could be an effective reliever with all the pitches he has. Tyler Zuber's a name I've mentioned on here. A ton of pitches in his arsenal and very interesting pitch mix that he has. Max Kranick was on the roster down the stretch and in the postseason, so you might see him. I mean, that's like the 14th guy I have on this list, and he was on the postseason roster. That shows you how deep this pen could be. Austin Warren could be a low risk, high reward signing the Mets have. Kevin Herget, another one of those. Genesis Cabrera is another lefty. The Mets signed to a minor league contract that could play a role. A decent lefty as a depth piece. Chris Davinsky probably won't make it, but another depth guy. Same with Dylan Covey. And then Albert Alzolay I put on there. We mentioned the Mets signed him to a 2-year deal, but he's coming off Tommy John. He's a guy to watch down the stretch in August or September. August would be a year since Tommy John. Maybe we see Alzolay enter this bullpen in September. This was a former Cubs closer with a sub-3 ERA, and he is the 20th name on this list. So, listen, even if you're the most pessimistic person on the planet, you can't look at this Mets bullpen and not say, wow, I mean, they do have depth. Again, I'm not saying it's a bunch of all-stars, but the fact that you have guys, if anyone to go down to, is very exciting, and I think it's where David Stearns has shined. He's shined on roster spots, not just 26 through 40, 26 through 50. Like, we're talking about guys that may not even make it, but that are going to be wasted away potentially in double or triple A who may not even get a shot because there's so many other guys ahead of them. So that is fantastic by David Stearns, that he has the ability to find lightning and, lightning in a bottle, diamonds in the rough. That's what I was looking for. Looking for diamonds in the rough. Aladdin, one of my favorite movies of all time. He gets these diamonds in the rough who you may have not heard of them, but have had success or are coming off years where they didn't get much of an opportunity. Like, some of those guys had like 9 innings and had a 1 ERA last year, but it's such a small sample size, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. So, and they come like a Zuber comes from the Rays, who are known to have developed pitchers as good as anyone. So get excited over this Mets bullpen, because I do think it's going to be a real strong point for this Mets team. Let's debut the Mets Daily Mailbag, which features the top 3 YouTube comments from yesterday's video. So this is coming from Tuesday, January 28th. Today is Wednesday, January 29th. So we thank you. Again, leave your comments below, whatever questions or good comments you have. There were a couple of good comments, but they were just too long down below. And then there were a couple of people who just kept commenting things and got kind of annoying. So leave a good comment below, and you might be featured on tomorrow's Mets Daily. We appreciate it. Again, hit that subscribe, hit that share, and smash that thumbs up on this video. We appreciate it. So let's go to the top 3 comments from the mailbag. This one from Jeff Cohen 9924. Great to have you back, Jake. Appreciate it. With the signing of Stanek, how do you feel about the 2025 bullpen? And I answer this. I love it. I think it's a really good bullpen, and those depth pieces are what intrigue me. Is like if the league catches up to Budo, if Diaz struggles, if Reed Garrett implodes, there's these other guys who are going to be hungry for a chance to succeed coming to New York on the biggest stage, and they want to win. So I love the depth. I love the bullpen. So good question there, Jeff. This one from Jonathan Shanakoop. Who would you rather have playing first base, Mountcastle or Torkelson? I think I'd rather have Mountcastle just because he's done it at the big league level, and he's done it with a winning team in the Baltimore Orioles. A guy who hit, 25, 30 homers multiple times, where Torkelson only did it 1 year and is coming off a really bad year. Mountcastle's not coming off a really bad year. It's just his most down year. So I'd probably rather Mountcastle, but it would depend on what the trade package for both are. Torkelson, I'm intrigued by because he'll cost you under $1 million and may allow you to do other things, where Mountcastle will cost you $6 million. So it really depends on the trade package. But if money aside, I would say Mountcastle. So good question there. And this was an interesting point from Linda DeVoe, S5S. Nimmo simply needs the correct orthopedic footwear, which should help him a lot. So I know nothing about feet. Maybe we could ask Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan now might have popped up on Rex Ryan's algorithm that we mentioned the word feet. But I don't know enough about feet. I don't like to be anywhere near feet. I'm not a foot guy. So I don't know much about this. But an interesting point, like the Mets have a really good medical staff. I think the days of Ray Ramirez are over for this franchise. So the treatment is something that the Mets did, the plasma injections in October, end of September. So I'm curious if that orthopedic footwear will, we could ask Joakim Noah this, who dealt with plantar fasciitis, if that'll help Brandon Nimmo. So maybe Linda DeVoe is a doctor and we just don't know. But that'll be intriguing to watch. Like I mentioned yesterday, Brandon Nimmo, that plantar fasciitis. Will he play 150 games in left field? Is he going to steal less bases? Will he be a part-time DH? We will find out. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube. Subscribe to Mets Daily on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram at Jake Brown Radio. Again, top 3 comments below we'll read on tomorrow, Thursday's show. And I should also have an announcement tomorrow about my personal future and another Mets project I will be a part of. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. But that's it for today. Happy Hump Day, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Thursday, January 30th, right here on Mets Daily. Thanks for watching.